Hello, welcome to the Resume Writing webinar presented by Career and Job Services at East Los Angeles College. Today, we are going to discuss the purpose of the resume, how to write and format it, the sections to include, and how to develop action-oriented bullet points. So what is a resume? A resume is a detailed, concise document of your skills, training, work experience, and education. It is a summary of your qualifications and achievements. It's an advertisement of your skills and what you bring to the employer. So think about it as a marketing tool to get you an interview. Resume types. There are two types of resumes, the chronological and the functional resume. Chronological resumes are the most commonly used format among students. It places emphasis on work history. The chronological resume is recommended for students who have minimal or no gaps between jobs, or for those who have worked for several employers within the same field and/or industry. This type of resume format works well to show career progression. The main thing to remember for the chronological resume is that information is listed in chronological order with the most recent experience first. This type of format works well for all industries, levels of experience, and it is preferred by a majority of employers. For the functional resume, emphasis is placed on specific skills and competencies related to the position. So what does that mean? You highlight specific skills related to the position you are applying to. This type of resume is recommended for students with large or multiple gaps in employment, unrelated jobs, or for students who are seeking a career change into a new industry. Again, the functional resume focuses on background and skills rather than work history. Let's take a look at a sample chronological resume. In this example we see here, the student has highlighted their job titles, the name of the organization, the city and the state, along with the date ranges. This information is listed both in the work experience and in the volunteer experience. This is a sample of a chronological resume where we see the student's career progression and the specific jobs they've had. Now, let's take a look at a functional resume. Notice the difference. The student is highlighting their professional skills. They highlighted their interpersonal, organizational, and customer service skills, and they tailored it to the position that they will be applying to. The emphasis in this resume is on the student's professional skills as opposed to the job titles and date ranges that we see on the bottom. Resume format. Your resume should be concise and organized. Employers will only spend 30 to 60 seconds reviewing your resume. You want to make sure you tailor your resume to your audience. You do not want to overwhelm the reader with irrelevant information and a laundry list of your duties and responsibilities. Your resume format should be a one-page document where you have 1-inch margins all around. The recommended font is 12-point font Times New Roman. And you also want to make sure you are consistent throughout the resume. So for example, if you're going to use bold for the headers and italics for the job titles, use them throughout the entire document. The most common mistake students make we see on the student's resume is inconsistency. The same applies for date ranges. If you're only going to list the year, then only list the year. If you spell out the month and year, always spell out the month and year throughout the entire document. Remember, consistency is key when you're developing your resume. Over the different resume sections. These are the most common resume sections that we see on resumes, and I will be going into further detail on what to include in each of the different sections. One thing to keep in mind is that your resume will most likely look different than your peers because we all have different skills and different work experiences. This is a sample of a chronological resume. This is the most common format that we see among our ELAC students. And most likely, your resume will follow a similar format that we see here. Now, the first section that will be included in your resume is the header. The header is where we include your full name, Your home address is optional. You want to make sure that you include a current phone number and that you have a professional voicemail. You also want to make sure that you have a professional email address. So your email should avoid any kind of birth date or any kind of slang. If you have a LinkedIn, a website, or a portfolio URL, then I would recommend that you add that to your header. Let's take a look at an example of how to list your information in the header. If you notice here, we have the student's first name and last name, the city, the state, and the zip code in which they live, and we also have their phone number and the professional email address. The objective is optional on the resume. If you choose to have an objective on your resume, it should always be tailored to the position, and it should include the following items: the position title that you are applying to, the company name, and the skills you bring to the position. Let's take a look at an example. The example that we see here says, obtain a part-time recreational leadership position with the City of Southgate, where I can utilize my sports leadership skills, communication skills, and Spanish fluency. This example is telling us the position that the student is applying to, the company name, and 3 skills they bring to the job. If you're going to include an objective in your resume, you should always follow this format. You want to make sure that if you are going to include an objective, that it's tailored to the position and that it's a strong objective. Now, if you have 3 or more years of work experience, we recommend, instead of having an objective, that you list a summary of qualifications. This will be more beneficial for you. In the summary of qualifications section, you highlight the number of years of experience that you have. You can also include any important accomplishments, personal characteristics, or soft skills that match the position that you're applying to. This can also include any foreign language skills or technical skills that you can bring to the role. Let's take a look at a sample summary of qualifications. In the example that we see here, this student wants to apply to a position working with children. We highlighted the number of years they have working with children and the age level. We also highlighted the student's passion to teach and their ability to develop activities that support children's development. We also highlighted the student's technical and language skills, along with certificates that relate to the position. The next header we have here is education. For this section, you only want to list the campuses in which you will receive a degree at. So for example, if you are attending multiple campuses such as ELAC, West LA, and Pierce College, but you will only be getting your degree from ELAC, then that's the institution that should be listed in the education section. You want to make sure you list the name of the school, avoid acronyms, and list the title of the degree that you will receive. If you're not sure of the degree title, refer to the college catalog for that name. You also want to list your expected graduation. A common mistake that students make is they list the year in which they started college. Avoid this mistake. Employers only want to know when you will receive your degree. Also, if your GPA is above a 3.0, go ahead and add the GPA. If you received or will be obtaining a skill certificate or certificate of achievement, go ahead and add that to your resume. It showcases your knowledge and skills in that field. If you have limited experience, we recommend the following headers for your resume, such as a related coursework section, course projects, and/or volunteer experience. In the related coursework section, you want to list courses that relate to the job you are seeking. So for example, let's say you are applying to a sales associate job. Let's think for a minute, what does a sales associate do? A sales associate greets and assesses customer needs. They might recommend or help them locate merchandise. They might also process the customer's payment at the register. For this type of position, you want to highlight college courses that you have taken at ELAC where you have learned that skill set. Some college classes you can highlight for a sales associate job would be public speaking, college reading and composition, and/or intermediate algebra. Again, you want to list courses as they relate to the position. It is very important you list the course title. You don't need to list the grade you received or the name of the professor. 4 to 6 courses is the recommended number of courses to list. So this is an example of how your courses would be listed in this section. Another header you can use is a course project section. The course project section is to showcase any group projects you have been involved in from high school or college. This showcases your ability to lead, work in groups, and delegate tasks to accomplish a goal. In this example, you can see how we list this information on the resume. Make sure you list the name of the project, the course name, and the institution where you completed the project, along with the date range. In the bullets, you need to describe the project and your involvement, along with the skills you utilized. We recommend listing 3 to 4 bullets for each project. Another header that you can use in your resume is volunteer experience, again, if you have limited paid experience. If you have been involved in with your church, a food pantry, or perhaps you have done a beach cleanup or a neighborhood cleanup, these are accomplishments that you want to highlight on the resume. So now we are in the experience section of the resume. This is the most important section of the resume. Your experience can come from paid professional work experience, volunteer, leadership. So if you have been involved with your community, or if you're part of a campus club, or perhaps if you've done an internship, have done research, or have taught, this is where you would want to list this experience. We are going to go into further detail how we list the experience in the resume on our next slide. As I mentioned, the work experience section is one of the most important parts of the resume. For the format, you want to list the job title, company name, city and state, and the dates that you were employed. This is an example of how we list experience for a chronological resume. In a chronological resume, we list all the experiences we've had in chronological order. Now, your bullets in the work experience need to be action-oriented. Your bullets need to begin with an action verb, you need to describe what you did, and you need to be specific with the skills you used and list how they impacted the company or the client. You can also describe a project or an event that you are proud of. Or if you were promoted within that job, you want to make sure that you highlight that. The example we see here, the student was a human resources assistant for ESPM Corporation in Los Angeles, California. The student was there from August 2019 to December 2020. The student is no longer at this position, so if you notice, the bullets are all past tense. For example, the student wrote, organize employment files for over 250 employees, recruited and hired 12 full-time associates for the management team. These bullets are action-oriented. They are quantifiable, they indicate the number of people they worked with, and the number of employees they hired. These bullets showcase the skills gained in the internship. Let's talk about how to construct strong action-oriented bullet points. I'm going to show you a trick. For your bullet points, you want to use the PAR approach, which stands for purpose, action, and result. In your bullet points, you should be explaining your duties and responsibilities as accomplishments and not a laundry list of everything you have done. As you develop your bullet points, you want to think about what was the problem, challenge, or opportunity that existed in my position? What was the action or initiative that I took? And what was the result? As much as possible in your bullet points, you want to use numbers to quantify your skills. You want to include percentages, populations, ages, and programs that you have worked with. Let's look at some examples of action-oriented bullets. On this chart, on the left-hand side, these are weak bullets. These are bullets that could use some TLC. In the first example on the left-hand side, it says, assisted with administrative tasks. Now, as a reader, I wouldn't know what type of administrative tasks the student is referring to. A stronger bullet could say, assisted with administrative tasks such as answering phones and greeting guests in a fast-paced environment. Notice how the bullet on the right-hand side is more detail-oriented. It's letting us know the student answered phones, they greeted guests, and they worked in a fast-paced environment. This showcases to me the student is able to work under pressure and is able to handle and manage multiple projects at a time. The second example we see here states, took care of children. A stronger bullet point could say, cared for 2 toddlers ages 4 and 6 during school breaks and weekends. The stronger bullet is telling us how many children this student took care of and their ages. I hope that my point is getting across as that you are developing your bullet points. You want to make sure that they are result-oriented. You want to quantify as much as possible your duties and responsibilities so that you have strong bullet points on your resume. Next section of the resume is the honors, awards, and extracurricular activities section. In this section, you want to highlight activities involving student leadership in clubs, professional associations, and/or recognitions. If you notice in this example, we have an extracurricular activities section where we highlighted the students' involvement on campus. We listed the name of the student club, their title, and where they were involved with the student club. Under the honors and awards header, we highlighted the students' recognitions, such as Dean's Honor List and Employee of the Month. There are different ways you can list your accomplishments. Notice how the dates are listed in chronological order, meaning most recent first. Another important section of the resume is the skills section. If you speak a second language other than English, you should indicate your level, whether it's conversational, intermediate, or fluent. For your computer skills, if you have any software or programming skills, you want to list your familiarity or proficiency or indicate if you are an expert in that technical area. One thing to remember as you're developing your resume is you always want to tailor your resume to the job description as much as possible, and you want to incorporate transferable skills into your bullets. Oftentimes, students will list personality characteristics or traits on their resume, such as friendly personality, excellent communicator, hardworking, outgoing. You want to avoid these personal traits on your resume. I recommend you focus on incorporating your transferable skills into your work experience bullets. That's going to hold more weight. Let me give you an example. Let's assume you lead a team in your current role, or you're really good at thinking on your toes and problem solving. These are skills you would want to highlight in your bullets as opposed to just listing the skills. I always tell students, don't just tell me you have the skills, show me how you have used these skills. Now, as you see here, these are the most common transferable skills you can highlight on your resume. You want to highlight your problem-solving skills, leadership, your ability to work with diverse groups, and again, the skills you highlight will depend on the type of position you are applying to. Again, some resume do's, as I mentioned previously, include always tailor your resume to the job description and incorporate keywords from the job description to your document. Always proofread your resume. I cannot stress this enough. Be honest. Do not lie on your resume. Employers can deny you from moving forward in the application process if you lie on your application. And continue to work on your resume. Your resume is always going to be a working document. Some resume don'ts include avoid I statements. Avoid including your photograph on the resume unless you are applying to an acting or theater position. Never disclose personal information such as your gender, religion, marital status, or political views. You also want to avoid listing any salary information or names of your previous employers. Oftentimes, students will also list on the bottom of their resume references available upon request. Avoid this. List your references on a separate page. Do not use this space on your resume. And lastly, remember, if you're going to list a skill, you always want to back it up. Describe and indicate how you have used that skill. So now that we have covered the different sections of the resume, let's go over some online resources to get you started. Please visit our website at career.elac.edu. On our website, if you scroll down and click on the College Central database on the right-hand side, you can utilize this program to build your resume. You can also utilize the College Central database to post your resume and search for positions. Also, make sure to check out our job resource guide and click on the resume link right here. The job resource guide will give you a list of sample resumes, a list of action verbs, and great information on the job search process. If we go back to our website, you can also schedule an appointment with a career counselor by clicking on this image right here. Make sure to get your resume critiqued by a career counselor before you apply to any jobs. Again, thank you for attending today's webinar. I hope you find these tips helpful to develop a stellar resume to showcase to employers. Have a great day.